Queen's Lead podcast. I'm your host, Amy Singleton, and as a child of the 80s, I'd love to say Queens rule, but they don't. Queens lead. Being a queen means you are worthy to be a leader of people. The guests on our show do exactly that. They are leading the way in their businesses, families, and communities. They're taking their rightful place in the spotlight, leading and inspiring the developing queens in all of us. Welcome to the Queen's Lead podcast. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Queen's Lead podcast. Today, I'm so excited to have the healing coach, Christi Diamond, here with us. Her and her husband, Rick, have a business called Healing Acres, and they are transforming marriages. Welcome, Christi.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Tell us a little bit about you and your business.
Sure. So, I've been working with women for years and years on healing, on deep healing to really get to a place of solidarity within themselves and their intuition. And in the last several years, probably about the last 5 years, realizing how much our relationship in marriage is so pivotal to how things go well or don't, like, so when this is really good, so much is good in life. And when this is off, like so much is off, right? It's such a core relationship. And I truly believe in the saying that goes, the highest form of spiritual practice is relationship because we learn so much about ourselves, we stretch ourselves. And so the work that I do now is actually with my husband, Rick, and we transform marriages to the place of, sometimes we get into these places in our relationships where there's kind of some unfinished business. So we might go through something and there might be apologies and there might be, the remorse and the healing, but it seems like there's containers that are left with maybe a little bit of residue or some things that can create resentment, right, over the years, and that builds. Then another container comes up from another experience. And so what we're finding in relationship is that if we don't clean out those containers, we will not have the deepest level of healing and therefore the deepest level of connection. And so in the work we do, we actually bring clients to us. We do that deep inner healing work, and with each other in the relationship, we clean out all the containers. We call it the art of repair. That's kind of the technique that we have formed ourselves. And through this, we literally have couples over and over say to us, we have never, ever experienced connection to this level in our relationship. And I love hearing that, because in that level of connection, in that depth, that's like where life really lives, where the bliss of life really is, the fulfillment of it is. And so it's such a beautiful experience. And I just love, love, love the work we do to get them there.
Oh my gosh, that does sound very transformative. I can think of people top of mind right now that might benefit from some conversations with you for sure. Tell us what kind of led you and Rick to this place. I'm assuming this isn't what you've always done. What brought you to this place of helping others?
Well, I have this gift. So I'm an intuitive healer on top of, doing this work, and I can read energy like that, and I can see where their blocks are. And I can't even explain it, honestly. I can get on the phone with someone and see it, and they're just like, how did you know that, And so the level to which I'm able to facilitate is just like this really deep level, because we go past the surface, we dive deep, we get there quick. And when I saw this in relationship, Rick and I are both on our second marriages, and we both brought baggage into our relationship. And I had a very abusive former marriage, physically, emotionally, and I had done all this healing, so I was like, oh, I'm ready. Yeah, I got this. I worked through it. No.
You thought you had, right?
Right. And so when I got into relationship with him again, back into marriage, all my old stuff came up. And it actually tore us apart to the point where about after 2 years, we were ready to divorce. Now
Wow.
we had 4 children, combined together. And I was like, okay, this can't happen. And so we decided to do the inner work, like I was just talking about, the true art of repair. And we were able to walk through our own healing journey. And I'll tell you that what has made the difference. So we've been together 10 years, and I have lived more dreams and fulfilled more of my life's purpose in the last 10 years than I did in all the years combined before that, because of the relationship we were able to build together, because of
Yes.
who he showed up as in my life and the depth of love we were able to share together. And I love this work. And so when we saw that journey and we see so many couples, honestly, not to be facetious, but I can count on one hand marriages that I aspire to be like, truly, because
Oh, yeah, me
I,
too.
it's just
Yeah.
like, yeah, there's like couples, and it's like, oh yeah, our marriage is pretty good, or it's, but I wanted the best friends, just excited to be together, kind of love the championing each other. And I wanted, there's 3 levels of love, and I wanted to get to the third level. And so when we were able to do that together, and Rick had to do his own work, at first he'll tell you himself that I kind of dragged him along with it, and he was just like, really? But when he saw his own purpose in it and what he does for men, because he coaches men, I coach women, and together we coach the couples, it's just like phenomenal. And so I can't imagine doing anything different now than that. But our journey actually brought us to the place we're at. And I often say, as they say, your mess becomes your message. And
Yes.
we truly want this. We want this for people, because this is what marriage was made for. It was
Yeah.
made to wake up, to be best friends, to still do the flirting, to have the great sex, to have that deep, deep connection. And so that was our journey. And so now we share it with the world.
That's amazing. What were you guys doing when you met for vocationally?
Okay, so he was doing corporate training teams and doing teamwork. And I was doing coaching with women and also the energetic healing work. I'm a medical intuitive. And so I had my own healing practice. I was, working with women and trauma work when we first met and came together.
Okay. So you already owned a business and he came in from
Yes.
corporate. What a nice pairing
Yes.
together. That's
Right.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there's strengths he has that really added to the business, and there's strengths that I have that he didn't have. So it was a great combination. I'll tell you though, that to work together as a couple is also a whole other level of working out the dynamics, and we truly believe that we can't take our clients further than we're willing to go ourselves. So
Mhm.
we dig in and we do the deep work, and we've done that in business and relationship. And anyway, here we are doing it
And here we
together.
are. We're doing it together. And tell us about you have individual coaching and couples coaching with one another or with other couples. But you
Yes.
also host retreats.
Yes. Yes. So we when we were doing the couples work, you know, all this, we had the COVID thing happening, and people, for one, we were floored and blown away by how many divorces were happening during COVID. And it was
Yes.
kind of this thing of like, oh wait, we have to be around each other like 24
Yeah.
7. Like,
Yeah. Forget this
how's that
guy.
gonna work?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was kind of this whole thing of like, like, how does this work? Or, we've had our escapes, and Rick and I call them exits from each other in our relationship. And anyway, we decided after that it was really important to bring the in-person experience, because there's so much you can do when someone's right in front of you, and that the once a week sessions weren't cutting it. It's just like you get somewhere and then you're like, okay, let's hold on for another week, and
Yeah.
we'll dig deeper, we'll dive deeper. And we were like, what if we brought them together for this work, we're literally 2.5 days, we are 100% focused on this relationship, the pitfalls, the heartache, the foundation, what they have to build on. And so bringing them together, focused away from distractions, from kids, from jobs, what happens in that short amount of time at a retreat together, and we like go all out, it's just like, if you're going to do this inner work, let's treat you VIP, like let's pamper you, let's take care of you,
Yeah.
the transformation that happens in 2.5 days, it's like you live almost a lifetime just in that amount of time. And it's really incredible. So we created Healing Acres. And what we've also done is, so I'll have retreats for women where they come and they kind of do their inner work. And we have this sisterhood and just this like real raw connection with other women, stepping into the queen that they are. And then the men, Rick does his, and they don't get as pampered as the ladies do. They kind of do the, the outdoor thing. and so to have a facility where we can facilitate the in-person experience that is so beyond powerful, that's like, it's literally like years of if you were to look at counseling, combining into just a few short days, like that's how much work, in-depth work is done. So we are excited to have a facility where we can bring people here. The women can come, the men can come, and the couples can come together. And we feel like that's the golden, like that is where the gold is in the work that we do.
Yes. So are people that are attending the retreats normally already coaching with you, or can anyone come to the retreats?
Anyone can come to the retreats. It's a combination of people who are already coaching with me, and some that are like, hey, I want to do some of this inner work. I've seen what you're doing. And so they come with them, and travel from all over. They fly in to attend these retreats.
Yeah. And you just moved this operation from Texas to Chandler, Oklahoma. Is that right?
Correct. Yes, we did. We, interestingly enough, the need was so high that we outgrew our first facility within a year.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
So yeah, like that's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
So
bad for them, great for you.
Right, exactly. So we found this beautiful space here in Chandler, Oklahoma, and it kind of looks like a castle. It's actually called the Copper Castle.
Oh, nice.
And it's on 40 acres. It is gorgeous, just gorgeous. I really truly believe in the healing benefits of nature, being cocooned in nature, having a space to go and sit quietly with yourself, to really be still with yourself, to have interaction with other women. So it's a great combination of all things. We have, moments where we get to be the little girls in us, and then we also get to be the queens in us. And so it's really, really an amazing experience.
Wow. So talk to us about the client journey. When someone reaches out to you and is like, oh my God, I'm stuck, I'm ready for divorce, I just can't take it anymore. What does that journey and kind of the onboarding and their path look like working with you?
Oh, I love that. That's such a great question. So we worked with couples who are like, literally like, we've been married 20 years. We love each other so much, but we're just done with a cycle that we just can't seem to figure out. And it's not like they want to end the marriage. They just don't know how to change the trajectory, because here they are. It's like, do we want to do 20 more years of this? And so it's not like this bickering and fighting. They're just kind of like, we love each other, but we can't figure this out. Like what's the solution? And so they'll reach out to us, and they've kind of been in their survival patterns. And that's kind of an assessment that we do with the clients. When we start off, there's several different assessments we're looking at, because it's just like, through the assessments, we can cut to the chase. We don't have to get into the story. We don't have to get into all this, stuff. It's just like, oh, I see. So this is how you've been surviving, and this is how you put the wall up, and this is how you pushed him away or pushed her away. And so we'll do a few sessions online via Zoom to just kind of look at that and kind of roadmap. And it's such a huge awareness and so much compassion for each other, because really we just, what we did is, as children, we learned to survive a certain way. And it was brilliant. I mean, honestly, it blows me away how we survive as children, in some of these situations, but it
Mhm.
doesn't work in our adult relationships. And so we keep doing the same thing over, kind of that insanity cycle, and just being like, what's going on, what's happening. And so what we're doing is learning to create a secure attachment with each other. That's where the depth can come in. And so it's looking at like, oh, so this is our cycle. This is our cycle of conflict. This is where we break apart. This is where I shut down. This is where you walk away or you get clingy, And so when we can look at the behaviors, we can shift those somewhat. And so we'll do a few sessions there, and then we'll bring them here for some deep inner work. And really, it's kind of like looking at where in myself did I kind of go off balance? Where am I not aligned with myself? Where have I self-sabotaged or self-sacrificed? And oftentimes I'll tell you that, I mean, kudos to the men who do this work, okay? Because there's a lot of women who are just like, oh my gosh, like I just want to soar. I'm finding things about myself, and the men will kind of find it as a threat of like, wait, what's going on here? Are you leaving
Yeah.
me? What's going on?
Yeah. Who's
And
this new you?
yes, exactly. And the solution most of the time is not, okay, I've outgrown you. Let's go our separate ways. It's like, how can I feel supported in my growth? And how can you feel safe in my growth as we do this? And then usually they will jump on board and come together and do the growing together, which is what creates such a phenomenal relationship and connection with each other. And so we'll do this inner work. And I'm telling you, like, people will just be like, oh my gosh, like, they will come kind of disconnected, kind of shut down, not knowing that there's really a solution, because they've done the counseling, they've done this, they've done that workshop, that, they'll come and they'll do this work. And it's really like they get to really see each other, hear each other, feel, walk through the repair, and healing is in the repair. And then it's like this huge shift happens. And what they've done is kind of buried the old relationship, because in some ways it has to die. Like, it just hasn't been working, right? But the partnership doesn't have to die. And so we'll bury the old relationship, and we'll create a vision of, what does your marriage look like going forward? And how do you want it to look like? How do you want to create it to be? It doesn't have to be like mom and dad. It doesn't have to be, like how it was growing up, but we get to create the rules, because sometimes we're just so deep in our conditioning. Yeah. And it creates expectations that create resentment, blah, blah, blah. So then they leave in this space of, ooh, this is how we're creating this marriage. And so we get back to, the real world, although this can be their new reality, and we integrate what they've learned. And so it's not just go and do this thing and then get thrown in the real world and be like, okay, take care of it. Then
good luck.
We're taking weeks to integrate. Yes, exactly. We're taking weeks to integrate. We're taking weeks to create the skills it takes. We're going back to the repair. We're continuing to clean out the containers. And then they're just in this place of like, wow, so this is what we've been waiting for. This is what we've been wanting, because literally that's what we're fighting for, isn't it? We're like fighting for that connection. We're not, like, what we're really fighting for is, we miss our best friend. We miss that connection. We miss, the friendship. And so when we get that back, I mean, life is freaking amazing. And it's funny, because I don't think people realize, literally, the investment in your relationship has the biggest payoffs in your whole life. It affects how you parent. It affects how you do your work. It affects money coming in. Like, there's so many things that this one core relationship affects, and so it's amazing to see what happens on the other side of that.
That's incredible. I heard you say a couple of things that I want to touch on. They've tried the therapy. They tried the church retreat. They tried this. They tried that. what happens that's different with you guys that they've been missing in all these other places they've tried?
What what we find that's missing is there's we've created some tools that, like I said, are the skills that are going to help create the communication, getting it healthier, making conflict resolution so much quicker and easier. Like, it's archaic how we do conflict resolution these days. And so to have a tool that walks them through conflict resolution very quickly, the communication is breaking down to simple ABCs. The deep work that happens is we do a sorts of kind of drama type therapy, in the sense that we hold space for somewhere in their life that something kind of went out of alignment with themselves, and they're able to kind of face their dragons. And true healing happens when you don't run from the dragon, but you literally face it yourself and you slay your own dragons.
Mm-hmm.
And so Rick and I have this gift of being able to facilitate that with them, of slaying their own dragons. And in moments in their life where they felt completely disempowered, where they felt completely like their voice was taken away or violated in some way, shape, or form, they're able to give voice to it and conquer it, and they come out stronger than ever. And I'll tell you that there's this moment of watching, and I call it watching your beloved. When you can see your beloved and you can see the wounded child in them, or the wounded teenager, or that wound that just hasn't healed or been addressed, and you watch them so bravely conquer it, and you are witnessing it. Like, part of it is also just being witnessed in your growth and your healing.
Yes.
There is this like depth that you're just like, oh, like it's just it is this cohesiveness that kind of seals you together. And there's such a compassion, and you stop taking things so personal, and you go, oh wow. So I take them back to the womb, because sometimes we are continually re-traumatizing our partner without even realizing we're re-traumatizing. And when we're aware of what it is, that takes them back to that space, and they're able to heal it, and we're part of that healing and the witnessing, it is like so incredibly powerful. And so this cohesiveness happens, and the way that we're able to facilitate that has been really unique. And like I say, it's like I can read energy, I know, and I can't even explain it. Like, I just know, oh, this is what we need to do, oh, this is where we go, this is what, and it just kind of falls in place. And I do it at the women's retreat too, and they're just like, oh my gosh, that was so powerful, just to be able to walk through that. And so it's really giving voice to the wound within us that has never truly healed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I hear it. That leads right into the second point I wanted to ask, which was, I hear you saying it starts with the individual, which I know to be very true to my own experience, but so many times we're trying to heal as a couple when neither party is healthy on their own. When you can get this right for you,
yes,
then that makes that relationship become much easier, is what I'm hearing you say.
Absolutely. Like, we can only, like you said, you're kind of starting at the back door. If it's like, okay, let's just tackle the couple together, but it's like there's two individual pieces that can create the healthy habits. And if one is unhealthy or both are unhealthy, you'll always be off kilter, imbalanced, and it won't be in alignment. And so if you can get in alignment with yourself, each individual person, the alignment that happens between the two of you is 10 times richer. And then it becomes permanent, as opposed to a temporary band-aid fix. Kind of like, well, we went to counseling and we learned how to communicate, but it's still not working. So you haven't gotten to the root cause of what's really creating the disconnect in the relationship. And so that's what we do, is we get to the root cause. And that is our biggest focus, is the root cause within ourselves, because we all have woundedness in us. We all have trauma in us. And trauma isn't, some people think trauma and it's like, oh, well, I wasn't raped. Well, trauma is the meaning we put to a situation that we had strong emotion reaction to, and feelings come up within us, right? And so it could literally be like, my mom forgot to pick me up from school one day, and I thought she was gone or killed, or something had happened to her. And like, you put this meaning to it, either this abandonment or this worry about mom, and something in you creates the trauma. And it's the absence of someone being there with you in the experience to help you through it that creates the trauma. So all of us have this woundedness or this trauma within us of some sorts. And when there's a strong meaning to it and something shows up to keep mirroring that, that has got to heal within us, right? So then we don't put more meaning to, oh, they're neglecting me, they're ignoring me, they're betraying me, they're abandoning me. And so when you can heal that, you are so much further along together.
Yes, yes. But so it's sometimes those things are so hard to identify. Like we don't even know what we've been affected by. I know with I'm also on my second marriage, my husband and I both have a very happy, healthy marriage, but the first ones weren't quite so. And, we learned a lot through that, but I didn't understand early on in our marriage that I had been, and I wouldn't say I was traumatized by this, but as a kid growing up, I watched my parents fight. And they're still married today, and they're healthy and happy again. But when I was little, when my parents would fight, my dad would pick up his keys and walk out the door because he had to get away. He would go in the truck, and I don't know if he would be back in an hour or if he would be back the next day. I didn't know. And so when my husband and I first got together and we would have any kind of disagreement, he would want to go walk the dog or take a walk or just go out on the porch. And I finally was able to identify, when you do that, that makes me feel abandoned because I watched this volatile relationship happen in a similar way. And then when we started communicating about that, it was like, oh, okay. Well, that's why you're so upset when he's trying to walk away to give me space that he thinks I need and get his own mind right before he says something ugly. But meanwhile, that's traumatizing me in this new relationship because of something I experienced 30 years ago. Like it's very hard to identify. So having someone like you who is intuitive, empathetic, understands and can identify with your assessments, I can't imagine how valuable that is to be able to cut right to the chase. Like, that's what it is. That's the thing.
It is, because sometimes we are spending years trying to figure it out. We're going in circles. We're just like, what the heck? And we'll go into what is wrong with me? And nothing's wrong with you. Nothing's wrong with you. It's taking you back to that place. And absolutely, what a perfect example. And what happens is, because of an incident or an experience or trauma or whatever, something happens. So your husband wants to go walk the dog, and where we get caught up in is our beliefs. There's a belief, there's an action that happened, and a belief comes up within you, and that's where we get snagged, and therefore we pull away or we shut down, or so it's amazing to be enlightened to it. And when in the enlightenment and the knowledge of it, you can then self-correct and not go down those patterns and paths anymore.
And get that story out of our head that we tell over and over and reinforce again and again and again. And it's all right here. There's nothing factual to it. It's just in our own head.
It's so true.
Oh my gosh.
It's so true. So true.
So tell us about some of the challenges you've had as a business owner. Most of our listeners are business owners, and like scaling and growing and moving to a new facility and outgrowing your stuff and the finances and the books. And what have some of your challenges been, and how have you been able to overcome those?
Oh, I love that question. So I've been in business about 15 years now. And some of the challenges I had, and I've really stepped into my own so much more. And it's amazing the difference this has made is listening to someone else above my own intuition on something, we have all kinds of ways people, market this way, do this, do that. And when I've gone against what I felt was natural or intuitive to me, I've regretted it, because it was just like, maybe that voice was saying, oh, maybe twist it this way and do it your way And so listening to myself has been a really valuable tool. But I didn't give myself permission to do that in the beginning because I didn't have the confidence to do so. I was just, it was just like, oh, the experts know. And yes, absolutely. Like, don't try to reinvent the wheel all the time. But one of the things that I also realized about myself is that I was resistant to systems. So, in the same thing of what I just said, sometimes I would turn out and do the whole opposite because there was some rebellion in me of like, no, I'm not going to do it that way, and I'm not going to have systems. And what I realized was that I didn't trust people as a child who had created systems because they weren't using them themselves. And so systems to me were very confining and conforming. But systems have to be in place in order for us to succeed, to have consistency. And so it really took a balance of, and systems is kind of the masculine energy, and the feminine energy is the creative energy. And so it's got to be a balance of both, right? I would, and so as I did that, I would, I wouldn't do the systems, but when I implemented the systems that supported the growth expanded exponentially. So it's listening to yourself and then having a balance of what is needed to run the business, what is necessary for the success to happen, and realizing systems can support you, even if they're not fun, but also finding what your brilliance is, and banking on that and hiring someone else for their brilliance. Now, this is a lesson that took me way too long to learn because, when you start off your own business, you're like a one-man show. You're doing the marketing, you're doing the customer service, you're doing the service, all this stuff. So in the beginning, it's a necessity. I get that. But when I was shown how much value an hour of my time was working with a client because of what we could do just even in 1 hour's time, and then I was doing admin work at the same time that I could hire somebody for $15 to $20 an hour. I was losing money. I was leaving, so here I was doing all this stuff and it was just like, no, I can't afford it. I couldn't afford not to get to the support. So open up avenues to where you can be supported, for you to live in your brilliance, to bank on the brilliance of who you are, the gifts you bring to the table, because nobody can do what you do brilliantly but you. Like, that's the asset of the company. Remember and realize the asset you are to your company, what you bring to the table that nobody else can bring, and little by little figure out what the roles are that you can then get support in and pay others to do. Because if I can pay somebody 15 to 20 an hour to do this while I'm doing the work that lights my soul up, and they love being an admin and doing their work, that's synchronicity, and it's really amazing.
Yes, that's a beautiful partnership when you can offload the things you don't like to do and aren't very good at anyway. And like you said, just live in your brilliance. So who was the first role that you hired when you identified like, I need some help?
The first role was marketing. I like to have help with marketing, to have someone else help me with that, because you can have the most amazing, wonderful product, but if nobody knows about it and you aren't out there showing it to the world, you might as well be in a closet holding all your beautiful products or whatever, because marketing is huge to be able to get the word out there. Like, I've published a couple of books, and I naively was just like, oh, I'm going to write a book, get published. Yeah, the harder work, and I mean, writing a book was like birthing a baby. I mean, seriously, it was like, it was so hard. It was, challenging. And I'll tell you that your business is your greatest growth. Like, you will learn so much about yourself in business. But anyway, I wrote this book, had, felt like I had done all the work. Well, now I had to do all the work to let the world know about my book, and have the contacts with the stores to sell my book and all that other stuff. So marketing was my first one because of how essential it was for the growth of my business and the awareness of what I wanted to bring to the world.
Nice. Tell us about your books.
okay. So I created some books and then eventually ended up doing a whole course with it. Is so doing the energetic work, the energetic healing. I decided that there was some tools that I used on my clients all the time to do their inner healing work. And they're like simple tools, but yet they're so profound and powerful. And so when I heard, I love, again, I love nature. I think there's a lot of healing properties in nature. So when I heard about essential oils and their healing properties emotionally, I decided to marry the worlds together, the two worlds together. And so I combined the healing techniques with the essential oils as a beginning of some inner healing for self, because everything I do it always leads back to healing. Like that's just who I am, a healer. And so I wrote Aroma Heal 1, and it has 4 techniques in it for inner healing that you can just do on yourself. Like it's literally scripted. It tells you what oil to use, like simple, easy. And then went on to do Aroma Heal 2, which I added 5 more techniques. So I created these 9 techniques together. In fact, in Aroma Heal 2, there's a sexually healing technique that is so beyond powerful. I see so much violation in some way, shape, or form, either past partners or sexually as a child, whatever. So anyway, there's a sexually healing tool in book 2. And so I combined those together, and that created the Aroma Heal course that I do. And so we actually ended up traveling, talking about marketing, traveling the country for a whole year. We got to travel the US and speak and teach on these techniques and just travel all over and meet so many amazing people. It was an awesome experience.
Wow, that's incredible. So aromaheal.org is where people can access that course or that book?
Yes,
nice.
Absolutely. Yes. That's where they can access it and see, where they're at on their healing journey. And interestingly enough, I tend to attract people who are trying to awaken to their own gifts. Like, what's my purpose? What are my gifts? And doing the books kind of helps to awaken in you what your own gifts are for the world. Are you a healer? How do you interact with people? How do you show up? And so it's kind of a beautiful thing, because it's kind of a door to an awakening of who am I as a healer, whatever that is. I mean, people can heal through art, they can heal through music, just what kind of healer am I? And finding their own healing in the work that they do in the course is incredible. Just in that amount of time, what they're able to do, it just gets really phenomenal results. So I love sharing healing with the world.
Tell us about one of your favorite client stories from someone that came to you very broken, and what do they look like today?
Okay. Okay, I will tell you. I was working with a woman who came to me. She had actually done a lot of her own inner work. So she did some stuff, and she was running a company on her own, had created her own company, powerful businesswoman, and was in this relationship and wanting to get married. But she was like, my needs aren't being met. I'm getting angry. She was resentful. They were both, divorced, entering into this relationship together and finding out the dynamics. And it was a lot about, I'm running my own company. I'm my own person. I'm, and I don't want to be this weak, person. I don't want to be walked all over like I was in my first marriage, trying to find this balance, right? And this whole thing of, how do I get my needs met without demanding them? How do I lean into receiving kind of in the feminine energy as opposed to being demanding in the masculine? Because we as business women, we tend to show up in our masculine energy for business, and it serves us well. There's nothing wrong with that. It serves us well. It does not serve us well in relationship. And so she was in this place, and she was making probably about her company about 2 to 3 million a year. And I say that because after she really took ownership of who she was, after she took ownership of, my needs matter, and there's a way to receive and get them without the demanding, without the guilt tripping, without when are you going to give me my needs? And there's a whole different way of doing that. And she stepped into her own, feeling her power, as the person, as the powerful woman that she is, she literally within, I want to say about 2 months, started getting multi-million dollar contracts. And I
Wow.
say that because the moment we own who we truly are, we stand in our truth, we let go of all of these patterns that have wreaked havoc in our life, that have pushed love away, that have disconnected us from other people or our purpose. When we just go to that space, we literally become the magnet for everything that was meant for us in the first place. And so we went through this journey together, and she was able to really heal some parts of herself. And it was funny because she's like, I've had like a life coach for 3 years, and in the amount of time we worked together in 3 months, I like we've done leaps and bounds with what I did in the 3 years time. Like we've done leaps and bounds beyond that. And that's the thing, is it doesn't have to take forever. That's, and so what I loved about her is that she was ready and willing, and we were able to progress so quickly. And the results that happened, he then decided, hey, let's do some coaching together, with Christi. Let's do a little bit of coaching together. And he was able to find parts of himself that still needed healing. And here they were on the verge of, we're about to maybe just call this quits because there's too much, to less than a year later, married and blissfully happy together, him running his own business, so strong in who he is, her so strong in hers, growing and expanding so quickly that she almost has to catch her breath. Her business is growing so well because of it, because she went to the depths within herself in this relationship, and to see the fruition of the rewards of that was phenomenal for her. So that was like, I still like, I just get choked up thinking about it, and where she was at when she first called me and where she is today. Because here's the thing, is she's out making an impact on the world through her business.
Yes.
She has an executive team of women working with her, out making a difference, all because she was willing to step in to these deep parts of herself and figure this out and move forward. And it's not pretty work all the time. It's not pretty work, but it is so worth it. And so I loved seeing how quickly, because she was ready and willing, and then the shift in their relationship, and here they are now parenting their children together and making an impact this way. So it was huge.
Wow. What a success story. I mean, like, talk about, you not only saved a potential marriage, non-marriage, no go situation, but improved their kids' life, their marriage, their separate lives, their business, and the people that her business is affecting further. Yeah. Wow.
Absolutely.
Incredible. When we plug into our purpose and are willing, that willingness and being that willing participant. I heard another coach say just this week, if it's easy with your coach, you're not growing. So I love that you say it's ugly work. It's not the easy stuff. If you're off the phone with your coach or out of a retreat and you feel all warm and fuzzy, maybe you need to dig a little deeper, get a little uglier, right?
Yes. And we actually do see the ugly cry. Go on.
I bet those ugly cries are good for all of us.
Freeing. Yes, they are.
All right. Oh, I know this is not like end all be all, but just a fun question. What do people fight about the most? Just on this most superficial level.
Okay. Superficial. Actually, you know what just blows my mind is how many couples aren't having sex. They're fighting or not talking about sex. I am blown away by how many people are actually not having sex and intimacy and connection in their relationships. So that's one thing. And I would say communication. It's just like, it's like they're in two different books trying to speak the same language, and it's not happening. And so there's the shutdown and so they're just fighting about, and a big thing is like, when are you going to meet my needs? When are you going to meet mine? When do mine matter? And really, you translate that into, I miss you and I'm hurting and I want you. but I don't know how to say it in a way that's going to be effective because I'm in my pain. So
Yes.
communication and sex are top things that people fight about for sure.
Jeez, people have sex.
I know.
What is wrong with
it's
you?
like what what even blows my mind even more is when I was traveling the country, I talked about this, sexually healing tool and stuff I was teaching. And I remember standing there and saying, like, I was like, that kind of sex that just like it's like spiritual, like you're so connected that you're literally like going to other realms together. And there's like this weeping and it's just like this, and all these women are standing there with their mouths wide open. They're like, no.
What? They're like, what are you
and I
talking
was
about?
just like, yeah, it was just like, no. And I was like, oh my gosh. Okay. So when you have that kind of sex, like other world sex, like it's like what has been sensationalized in the world is sexuality, and just like all this kind of perverse type of sexuality it's just nothing compared to that soul level sex connection that we have access to. And I would say, I've never done drugs, but I'd say it's like it's like the effect of a drug, like it's just, and so that also blows my mind as to how many couples aren't having that level and depth of connection in their intimacy, in their sexuality as well.
Yeah, that makes me sad. It really does. It makes me so sad
I
because there's so
know.
much more
I know.
available to us when you're willing to put in the work,
Yeah.
when you're willing to say sex.
So true.
Oh my gosh, or
Yeah.
talk about
Yeah.
that thing right here in the middle of the Bible Belt. God forbid we talk about how he made our
Yeah.
bodies.
Right.
If it wasn't supposed to feel
Exactly. Right.
good, he wouldn't have made it feel good. What the heck?
Right. Exactly. And you know what? So much of that for women is receiving, isn't it? It's like receiving that. I mean, just anatomically, how bodies were made, female is the receiving, the male is the giving, And
Yes.
so yeah, I could talk about that all day long, but
We'll have
just,
another episode where we just let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about you and me. I don't know.
there we go.
Probably the most listened to
No, I
episode
love
ever.
it. But
That'll
like
be.
what you said. Well, that's the thing is really you want this for everybody. Once you've experienced it,
Yes.
you're like, seriously, like you gotta have this. It's just amazing, that love, the connection, the depth. It's beautiful.
Yes, it is. Well, our time is almost up. Thank you so much for joining me today, Christi. Tell the guests where they can
Absolutely.
receive this healing from you. Where can they find you? How do they get hooked up with you to participate in this healing?
Absolutely. So we have a website called thehealingcoach.com. We made it really easy to remember. It's just thehealingcoach.com, and you'll go to that website. You'll see our couples work. You see our individual work. You'll see Rick's work, coaching men. So it's easy to find us there, easy to contact us there. We have a place where you can do a complimentary discovery call, just to even dive in and see, is this for me? Is it not? There's no charge to it. There's no sales to it either. It's just, when I work with people, it literally has to be a soul yes for both of us. And so I
Yes.
love doing the discovery calls, just, kind of like, let's discover, is this a good fit? Does this work? And no pressure of sales coming into it, but literally like, this is how I can show up. So
Yes.
thehealingcoach.com is where you can find me.
All right. You heard it right here, guys. Thank you to our guest, Christi, the healing coach. Go over to thehealingcoach.com and sign up for a discovery call. See if you're a right fit to heal yourself and heal your marriage. Thank you so much, Christi, for being our guest. And thank you for being a queen that leads.